Alhamdulillah, brothers and sisters, when I come to this masjid, I have very good memories. And I wish that when the youth that you see today in this masjid, when they grow up, they will also have good memories about the masjid. Not being chased around or frowned upon when they come to the masjid. And this is the thing that will bring them back to the masjid. If they have bad memories, every time they come to the masjid, something happens, a fight breaks, or they are frowned upon or sent to the last row forcefully, then they will eventually develop bad memories and they would not want to come back to the masjid when they grow up. Ramadan was a good opportunity to encourage the youth, to give them the opportunity to lead Salat al-Tarawih, for example, to give the adhan sometimes, to lead Salat al-Tahajjud, to volunteer. I was speaking to a group of youth this Ramadan, and I told them when I was your age, and they were between 10, 12, 14 years old, I told them when I was your age, we were not given the opportunity to participate. So if you want to participate, here is your chance. And if you want to lead Taraweeh, you will need to memorize the Quran. So the next day, this 10-year-old, he comes to me and said, I want to memorize the Quran. This is something you will not buy with money. If you have all the money in the world, you will not be able to make this happen. So we need to encourage the youth. Back in the 60s, one of the brothers was telling me that there were few Muslims in this area. And they used to read Taraweeh with short surahs because they didn't memorize a lot of Quran. And then probably a few years later, they started bringing people from overseas to lead Taraweeh. It was the best option back then. But 40 years later, we are still bringing people from overseas. What message does this send to the youth? I'm not trying to criticize any particular masjid. This is pretty much everywhere, it's the same story. But what message does it send to the youth? It sends many messages. It's telling them that whether you memorize the Quran or not, we will not need you. What is the motivation for them to memorize the Quran, for instance? If they are never going to be able to participate, for example, in the Taraweeh. If we are paying somebody to come from overseas, the local people are more deserving to take that money. There's nothing against these people who come. We ask Allah Ta'ala to reward them for the efforts they are making. But a solution that worked many, many years ago may not be the right solution today. How many youth did we lose during these 30 or 40 years? I can guarantee you that we are talking about hundreds, if not thousands of youth. People who are dying on the streets, mainly non-Muslims, but there are a lot of Muslims within those people who are dying on the streets. We need to work really, really hard to rectify the situation. We really need to rethink what we did in the past. Things that worked in Muslim countries don't necessarily work here. Solutions that may have worked over there may not necessarily work here. And this brings me to the topic that I was going to speak about, which has to do with responsibility. When a person takes on the responsibility of overseeing the affairs of the Muslims. People in the past, they looked at responsibility differently. Sufyan al-Thawri is a scholar from the early generations. Sufyan al-Thawri, famous, big scholar of the early generations. He lived about 100 years after the Hijrah. So that's very early. So one day, during the Khilafah of Al-Mansur, he called upon him and he told him, I'm going to make you the judge, the supreme judge. Sufyan al-Thawri refused. He said, no way. He said, you're going to do it. He said, no. He said, I'm going to kill you. and he called upon the sword. So when Sufyan al-Thawri realized that he could be killed for it, he said, give me until tomorrow. So he said, okay, I will give you until tomorrow. At night, he fled the country. He was in Baghdad. He fled. He didn't want the responsibility. Does he think like us today? We run towards it today. We want it. For the most of us. He fled from it. He wanted to go towards Yemen. At the time, obviously, people didn't have enough money to travel all the way to their destination. So they had to stop along the way to work, make some money, and then continue on. So he stopped somewhere. He went to the market looking for a job. So he found somebody that had a garden. And he agreed with him to work for a month. So during that time, one day, the owner of the garden called him. And he told him, can you please bring me some grapes from my garden? So Sufyan al-Thawri went to the garden, took a bunch of grapes and brought it to the owner. So the owner, he sampled one and it was extremely sour. He said, this is not good, bring me something sweet. Go back and bring me some sweet grapes. So he went back and brought some, and again, it was very sour. He told him, bring me from the sweet one. Don't you know where the sweet ones are? He said, I have no idea. He said, why? He said, because I never sampled them. I never tasted one. He said, who do you think you are? Sufyan al-Thawri? Because only Sufyan al-Thawri would do something like this. He couldn't believe it. Who do you think you are? He said, honestly, I never tasted one. And this is a trust. They took the trust seriously. He never sampled not even one grape. So the owner of the garden, later on that day, he went to the market and he was telling his friend about this strange man who never sampled a grape from the garden. So he asked him, describe him to me. So he described him. He said, this is Sufyan al-Thawri. And the Khalifa has a reward for whoever captures him. So we should go grab him and take him to the Khalifa and grab the reward. So by the time they went back, Sufyan al-Thawri had left. He continued his journey towards Yemen. When he reached Yemen, he went to the marketplace and somehow he was accused of stealing. And he was taken to the man appointed by the Khalifa, the ruler of Yemen. This man looked at him. He said, you don't look like a thief. You look more like a scholar to me. So he asked everyone to get out. He insisted for him to tell him his name. And he finally told him, I am Sufyan al-Thawri. He said, you are the one that the Khalifa has a reward for capturing him? He said, yes. He said, by Allah, I will not tell the Khalifa anything about you. You can live in Yemen as long as you want. So he lived in Yemen until he decided to go for Hajj. So he went for Hajj. He arrived in Mecca and somehow the news got to the Khalifa that Sufyan al-Thawri is in Mecca. So he sent his soldiers. He told them, go to Mecca and capture Sufyan al-Thawri and wait for me. I'm going to be coming and I'm going to kill him myself. So Sufyan al-Thawri obviously was in the Haram and he saw the soldiers looking for him and shouting his name. He had nothing else to do but to make a dua. He made a dua that this Khalifa, Ja'far al-Mansur, he said, Ya Allah, don't let him enter Mecca. This is a very powerful dua. If we would make a dua like this, we will be doubtful that Allah will answer this kind of dua. He made this dua, and the Khalifa, not only that he did not enter Mecca, he actually died coming to Mecca. He passed away. This is a powerful dua. A dua that comes from a person who knows what the responsibility is, especially when it comes to the affairs of the Muslims. He's worried that maybe he will oppress somebody. He's worried that in the day of judgment, he will be held accountable for things that he could simply avoid in this life, if he has the option to avoid them. But today, you see people fighting over responsibility. Fighting over responsibility. And then when it comes to the main issues that we have in the community, whether it is here or anywhere, as I said, I'm not picking on a particular masjid. This is one of my favorite masajids in BC. But this is just to raise awareness about certain things. We have to realize that our priority are the young generations. Because the grown-ups have lived their lives. They had the option to get an education. They had the option to maybe live in a Muslim country. They had all that. So our main focus and concern should be the youth. If we dedicate 100% of our time to the youth, it's going to be worth it. Those are the next generation. These are the future leaders. Are they going to make mistakes? Of course. Everyone makes mistakes. And especially if you are learning, you will make mistakes. If during Taraweeh, a young person leads and makes mistakes, people who never led Taraweeh, they don't realize that as soon as you stand in this spot here, you may forget your name. You don't realize it. But if you stand there, you will forget things that you have never forgotten in your life. It's a different feeling. You will not get this feeling unless you stand there and you have hundreds of people behind you. Then you realize that it is a strange feeling that will make you forget things. And as a result, you will make mistakes. So mistakes are expected. We have to be patient. We have to be patient. We should be proud if we manage to have kids that were born in this community and become the leaders of the community. We should be proud. If there is something that needs to be corrected in them, we could correct them. If there is something that they need to learn, we can send them somewhere to learn. You cannot have somebody being born perfect. Nobody is perfect. والله تعالى أعلم. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن تبع هداه. Brothers and sisters, I remind you, as I have reminded people who came for Eid Salah, that we had a training camp during Ramadan, and we should never forget to ask Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala to accept from us. As it is mentioned in the Quran, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ, that Allah only accepts from the pious. So we hope that we were from those who Allah has accepted their deeds during Ramadan. And we also have to review what we did during Ramadan. We have to look back and see, what did I do good? And I should continue doing that. Did I gain taqwa or did I gain weight? We have to reflect on this. I used to tell people, weigh yourself before Ramadan and weigh yourself after Ramadan, just to see that, did you overeat? Because we are supposed to be fasting. If we gained weight, that means we were eating more than usual. We were eating more than usual. And then the habits that we have practiced during Ramadan, we should continue and try to practice them outside of Ramadan. One of the sad stories I heard from one of the masajids, and I didn't want to mention this during Eid, it's a happy occasion, but this is just something for all of us to reflect on. Imagine that you talk to somebody about Islam and this person ends up converting to Islam, like you saved a man from the hellfire. This is something great. It's greater than the whole world and what it contains. But what if a person does the opposite? Isn't that something huge? A sister who converted to Islam, her husband told me, and this did not happen in this masjid, just to be clear. He told me after she converted to Islam, he was trying to convince her to go to the masjid. Let's go to the masjid, let's go to the masjid, let's go to the masjid. Finally, one day, she agreed to go to the masjid. She went in. After she came out, she said, I will never come back again. I will never come back again. Whoever was responsible for this, This is something huge. Right? We want to make sure that at the very least, we stay neutral. Like if I'm not able to give da'wah, if I'm not able to show a good character to other people, then I should stay neutral. But to keep people away from Islam, this is something I don't even know how to describe it. So we have to make sure our masajid is a welcoming place to everyone, the religious ones and the less religious ones and anything in between. Everyone is welcome to the masjid. We should have an atmosphere, we should all work to have it a welcoming place, a place where people want to come to and not being forced to come. When children are small, we bring them to the masjid because they have no option to refuse because they are too small. But when they grow up, are they going to come willingly? Most likely not, because there's nothing that attracts them to the masjid. One brother was telling me this story. A couple of brothers told me the same story. We had a program in one of the masajid during Ramadan. So he said the first night of Ramadan, he was asking his small kid, get ready, we are late, we don't want to be late for Taraweeh. So they came the first night. He said the second night, he liked the program so much that it was the kid who was telling his dad to hurry up. This is what you want. Once you reach the point where the kids and the youth and the teenagers, they are the ones asking to go to the masjid, then consider this a success. اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم انصر الإسلام والمسلمين اللهم من أراد بالإسلام والمسلمين خيرا فوفقه اللهم لكل خير ومن أراد بهم غير ذلك فاجعل كيده في نحره واجعل تدبيره تدميرا عليه يا رب العالمين. اللهم أعد علينا رمضان أعواما عديدة وأزمنة مديدة. اللهم تقبل منا الصلاة والصيام والقيام واحشرنا في الآخرة في زمرة خير الأنام. اللهم تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم واعف عنا إنك أنت العفو الكريم واغفر لنا إنك أنت الغفور الرحيم واغفر لوالدينا يا رب العالمين. اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون. فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في دين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا.